I have been proselytizing the podcast and sending it to as many soccer and non-soccer fans as possible. And the overwhelming feedback before anyone talked about anything else, I think I heard from 5 different people that said shorten the intro. Everyone hates a long intro. It's too long. Shorten it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
For
the
what
music,
it's worth,
you mean?
yeah, just like the music with like the bull store calls, and just the opening intro is too long and people hate that.
You know what?
Take it at face value.
No, they're right, because when you think about it, I listen to a lot of podcasts, and some of the like Joe Rogan podcasts, I don't know if you guys listen to it, I'm jumping in 10 minutes in automatically because I know there's advertising. I know I just skip everything until they're starting to talk about something interesting, you know. So I wouldn't be surprised if people are doing that. That's a good way to do it. I like that.
See, I had it shortened to a minute. I figured that was pretty short compared to a lot of podcasts I listen to. I can shorten. You have to have some kind of intro though, because you don't want to just like jump in and be like.
But you have us. We always have to, you know, say our weird usernames and everything. I mean, we're kind of that's sort of the intro.
You can get away with the usernames.
Yeah.
But how will people know how to come yell at me for something stupid that I say?
Well, they won't. That's the beautiful thing is they won't be able to.
Or it's, you know, when people say, you're the guy from the podcast.
So this is a total aside, but I was joking around with somebody on the Timbers subreddit, and they were like, "Oh, when's this gonna happen?" I was like, "Oh, that's Merritt, ha ha ha," and they actually did on Twitter. And then some dude was like, "I just found you," and like posted a link to me tweeting at Merritt Paulson and saying like, when are the friendlies going to be on? And so suddenly there was like, you know, 15 people who were like, "Oh, that's who you are. I've always wondered who you were." And I was like, "Fuck, like this is kind of awkward." Suddenly, all these people like, "Oh,
you're getting popular."
But not popular. It's more like accountable. It's not.
Well, you know,
wait, let me just go grab a glass of water really quick.
That's fine.
Yep,
I gotta plug in my computer.
Good to do it now. Get it out of the way. Let's see here.
So your team's good now, Dennis.
Yeah.
How are you gonna deal with that?
I don't know. It's gonna be a really weird feeling. Honestly, I don't know. I'm very superstitious though. I feel like something's gonna happen, and I know the articles for like what do you call it? There's already articles primed. I'm sure, just waiting. Like, oh, did TFC overspend? Look at the results for the first 4 matches. They're not very good, you know. Like, I'm just waiting for those articles to come out because I know they're already written and they're just waiting on that post button.
Yeah.
But
I'm
happy.
It'd be terribly unfair to judge TFC after 4 or 5 matches.
We'll see, though. I mean, I'm really happy, and I'm just curious what season ticket prices will be like next year, and you know what's going to happen with Argo's expansion because they're thinking about expanding the field out. We really don't want them there, but
oh yeah,
it sounds like we kind of can't say no with all these awesome signings. It's kind of really hard to turn on and be like, yeah, well.
That'll be a thing. Okay, so one thing. All right, last thing before we start. Is this order? Is this the right? I guess you know what. I'll just figure out as we segue. And
oh yeah.
You got long hair now too. Yeah.
Who, me?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I haven't had a haircut in like, I don't know, 15 months I think.
Yes, join the club.
All right, so we're gonna start. Hello, folks, and welcome to slashMLS Season 2,
I'm
Episode 3.
I'm gonna cut you off right now. We gotta move the mic back. It's popping pretty bad.
All right, hold on a second.
How's my audio? Because I feel like
your audio is fine.
Yeah,
your
it's
audio
okay.
is fine. Let me. All right, there's not a whole lot I can do about mic placement, but I can make my volume go a little bit lower. How is this?
Start saying some peas.
Poo.
Please pass the potatoes.
Much better.
Yep,
Okay.
much better.
All right. Hello, folks, and welcome to slashMLS Season 2, Episode 3. I am, of course, Ian, username Armascarhu. We have Dennis joining us for the first time this year.
Hi there, guys. My name is Dennis, and my username is Denmar.
And I'm Josh, and my username is 97227ist. I almost always get those numbers wrong. Like, I want to say them out of order every time.
And I'm Pete, and I'm username PunkRockPete.
All right, so I think we'll start today by talking about the big football match that happened this last weekend. I, of course, am talking about America versus South Korea, not that other random thing that happened on the gridiron, whatever that was. So, what'd y'all think? America 2, South Korea 0. MLS better than K-League, obviously. What I'm getting from that, anyway.
To whom would that be shocking news, though? Like,
Yeah.
Okay, actually, wait. Here's a better question. Does anybody know anything about the K-League other than that it's in Korea? Because I don't.
This one time when I was like 15 and I started playing FIFA and I wanted to beat all the leagues, I played the K-League. So that's what I know about them.
That's dedication right there.
Oh, I've got a good story. One time, a guy in my office and I were playing, and I had Bayer Leverkusen or some German team, and he picked a random K-League team, and he beat me, and I threw the controller across the room because I was so mad. And that's, yeah. But so my big takeaway from that was that Chris Wondolowski is a great goal poacher against lesser opposition.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just have an incredibly hard time seeing him doing that against a better team, and when there's more pressure on him, I just don't see it happening. I know a lot of people were saying that they thought he should get called up to the national team and go to Brazil. I really don't see him providing a whole lot for the.
I wish that Wando had gotten some call-ups against those larger teams, because I feel like he does get that, brought against him every time. Oh, well, it was in the Gold Cup and they were lesser opponents, and then he steps it up a little bit more and scores again. And I agree with you, Josh. I do think that in the end he's probably going to get left out for a good reason, but I feel like.
Who's he competing against? Is he competing against Eddie Johnson for that last striker spot, do you think? Maybe Mike McGee's in there?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's valid. And, the argument against Eddie is going to be form and how does he play for DC. But, I mean, the end line is that Eddie has come up big in games against larger opponents.
That's just he scored against Mexico.
Yeah,
exactly.
He scored against Panama and Seattle. I mean, those aren't little moments by any means.
And he can play in a couple different positions as well. I mean, he's not like a natural winger or second striker, but Klinsmann plays him outside of the forward, like, number 9 position. He does pretty well at it. So I think that's another thing that Wando is not going to do. Wando is going to hang out in the box and poach chances, and
we know
that doesn't provide a lot of flexibility.
Yeah, and Eddie has the ability to come on in the 75th minute and score goals against big opponents. He doesn't have to start to be an impact player, and I'm not sure that Wando can say that.
Mm-hmm.
Not to mention, I mean, I think Eddie Johnson's hold-up play is a little bit underrated. I know a lot of people like to piss on him for, I don't know, that one little spell in South Korea where he did step over, back heel ball out of bounds, which was pretty funny, and I was at the soccer bar being like, "Go Eddie Johnson!" Oh, no, oh, why Eddie? But because I have to root for him now. But
I am contractually obligated to like this man.
I mean, he might be the first DC United player to go to the World Cup since I think maybe 2002, maybe even 1998. So. Yeah, I mean, when back then in '98 they had like 7, so there's that. But I don't know.
No, you're on the money. I mean, in Seattle we've made jokes for 2 years about step overs into the corner, but the truth is he absolutely does have a great hold up game. I mean, he can put his back to the goal and help his teammates out and do what he needs to do. So I agree. I think that Wando, given an extra year of qualifying and the chance to play against some better sides, maybe he sneaks in, but he doesn't have any time left.
I also think we've seen him partner with Josie Altidore better than any other striker. not name Dempsey or Donovan. And I think, maybe one of those two plays in the striker position, but they haven't traditionally for Jurgen. So, I mean, in that Bosnia game, they had Eddie Johnson and Altidore up front, and it was great. And they had that combo again in the Panama game, and it went well. I think that's what Klinsmann likes the most so far, but we'll see.
Other takeaways?
Yeah. Well, for me, something Alexi Lawless said that was really important sometime in like the 30th minute when Korea got this really good chance streaking down the left side. Obviously the Korea finisher didn't finish it, but he said, Ghana finishes that chance. Germany finishes that chance. Portugal finishes that chance. And that's important because three of those guys that played in that defense yesterday, Beasler, Gonzalez, and I think
Evans.
Evans, yeah. Three of those guys are probably going to be playing, if not starting, in the back line in the World Cup. And it's going to be extremely important for them to keep their form and keep people in front of them because speed might be an issue. Mm-hmm. What do y'all think?
I am a huge Brad Evans fan, being representing the Sounders, but I'm
contractually obligated.
Exactly, contractually obligated. I mean, honestly, everyone has come around to Brad Evans. Brad Evans kind of got shit on a lot before last year, even by Sounders fans, the majority of them. The thing about Brad Evans is that he has an incredibly high soccer IQ. He's not the most athletic guy on the field. And he's not the most technical player on the field, but he's a general. He sees the game, and I'm not sure that right back is really the place where that skill comes in the most. And he's clearly a competent right back. I mean, the opinion is that the spot is his to lose as of right now. But even as a fan, I too am concerned against sides like Ghana, Portugal, and Germany that
right.
Brad Evans might not have what it takes on the left side for striking.
So I'm wondering why Brad Evans and why not Jeff Cameron? Klinsmann keeps playing Jeff Cameron in that defensive central midfielder role, like alongside Bradley or behind Bradley even, or next to Beckerman or whatever. But Cameron starts at right back for Stoke in the EPL, and Evans doesn't start for right back. I mean, he starts for the Sounders, but not there. What's going on there? I wonder.
I don't know. Klinsmann is difficult to guess sometimes. I mean, I know that he likes players like Evans. He likes, he likes high IQ guys. But I have to agree with you. I mean, Evans is a great midfielder for the Sounders. He is, the quintessential utility player in the midfield. If you need him to attack and help with linkage, he can do that. If you need him to sit back with Ozzy Alonso and play a more defensive role, he can do that as well. And he does slot in at right back in times of great need and serious emergency, but it's by no means his natural position.
Right.
But I don't have a better answer than that.
Well, do you think he wants to play him in sort of a role that, and I know this isn't like the quintessential example, but the one that comes best to my head is in 2012 when DC was good, we used Nahar as the right back to someone to push forward. Do you think Evans serves that role, and do you think Yedlin, who came on for him, serves that role even better?
I think Yedlin serves that role better because he's a lot faster, and he can, he can move a lot more. He can cover a lot more ground along the right sideline. But I think the thing about Jeff Cameron that I really like is that he's a solid. He's a very solid defender. He's competent. He's comfortable. He's playing against really good players week in, week out. And he's also got pretty good service into the box. I mean, I've seen him put a couple of really beautiful crosses in, and I think that's something that, we're probably going to be reliant against Ghana, Germany, Portugal on, somebody just catching a defender unaware and Eddie Johnson catching a defender unaware and getting up over on top of them and getting a goal, or getting something out of a ball pinging off around in the box, from a sharp cross that catches people unaware. So I would like to see somebody like Jeff Cameron. I think Yedlin, I mean, the thing about him is that he's so incredibly fast, but he's he's great on as a pure wingback, somebody who doesn't have a huge amount of defensive responsibility, somebody who's always got someone who can come in cover for him. I don't know if we have the formation cover for him when he bombs forward. Even though he can get back really quickly, he's still, at least in the bit that I've seen him, and Pete's going to have seen him a lot more than me, but he always looked like somebody who was a little uncomfortable with defensive responsibilities. He was fine being there, and he was great on cover. But going in on tackle on guys, or really breaking up passing lanes and that stuff. He's young, so it's not a huge flaw or a shock. But I think he's too young to be a right back if you're going to have a four-man back line.
Yeah, you're right on target. At the beginning of the season last year, DeAndre Yedlin does not start for the Sounders if he's not so speedy. In the early part of the season, he absolutely did not look comfortable defensively, and he was only able to play that position because he had the just ridiculous speed to make up for mistakes. And against quality, World Cup teams, that's not enough. Now, DeAndre Yedlin starts it right back in 4 years. I will gladly make that prediction today that he will be the U.S. starting right back in 4 years, because he's even in the conversation today, barring horrific injury or, a fall from grace. There's no reason to think that he's not the future at that position. But, again, as a huge DeAndre Yedlin fan, I don't see it. He has incredible speed. By the end of the year, his defensive positioning and thought process was certainly passable as opposed to scary, and his crosses especially got better. That was something that I really wanted to see out of him, and by the end of the season I felt that his balls into the box for the kind of guy who needs to get forward. He can't just get forward, he has to be able to give some good service, and all those pieces are coming together. But again, if it was 2013 and we were in this position now, he might have a chance to steal that position, but I just don't see it this year.
That's fair. Well, let's quit talking about the national team for now. Their next game's in March in Ukraine, which may or may not happen depending on the protests that seem to be happening over there.
If Ukraine continues to
exist.
That's mean.
Yeah, it is. So, sorry, Ukrainians.
You not say Ukraine week.
What? Oh my God.
So there's that. All right, well, let's move on to this next thing on the list. The impending Miami, whatever they're going to call themselves, announcement. Miami, Beckham, LeBron, United FC.
Fusion, go Fusion, bring it back.
Oh, I would love that. That's one of my all-time favorite logos, that old Fusion logo.
I have to look this up now because I can't.
What are the odds on the Fusion? I think that's highly unlikely.
Probably like 1%.
Oh my God, you like that? Ian, what I love about you is that you fessed up to liking the Crew logo and now the Miami Fusion logo.
We'll talk about the Crew logo.
I'm gonna conclude that you are color and shape blind.
All right. Well, be that as it may. So we're getting another glamour team, one that's going to pair with New York City, and I guess hopefully this podcast goes out on Tuesday, so the day before the announcement, so we can talk about it and people won't be like, what, this already happened. Anyway, so how do you guys feel about new glamour team, LeBron, Beckham, Miami, probably stadium eventually next to the Heat arena that people like to leave in the last 30 seconds of Game 6? Well, how do you guys feel about this?
The traffic there is really bad in those incidents.
or something.
Or something, I'm really curious to see how the league balances the concerns of the more middle class of the league, as you would call teams like Colorado, Dallas, Chicago, Houston could even be considered in there, San Jose, etc. Teams that don't have a huge amount of money are doing okay in their markets, but aren't about to have a lot of money to splash on high-profile designated players, and they might have a little trouble filling the stadium. San Jose, I think it's unfair to put them in that because I imagine they'll be doing very well. But in the Heartland, it's a little bit rougher for a variety of reasons. So I'm really curious to see how they try and balance the concerns of those teams with the concerns of owners who are coming in and want an opportunity to make a splash in their market, which is expecting a lot of them. I don't know how it's. I honestly have no idea how they're going to balance that. I can't predict where the market's going to go for MLS soccer around the country. Whether it's a new television contract. We know the deal of what the TV contract's going to look like. So,
right.
It's not like there's some magical pot of TV money coming from somewhere else. But it's going to be tricky. I mean, it's going to be very, very tricky to keep the. I mean, you can see how the Man City ownership group thinks and what they want out of their team when you look at Manchester City, and watching the way they run roughshod over the English Premier League, with the exception of Chelsea today. I mean, but they've just been tearing people apart, and they're going to want the same thing in New York. And I'm curious to see. I have no idea what's gonna. It's gonna be challenging. I think it'll be Donny Soccer's great. It'll either be his Waterloo or his the other Waterloo, the Waterloo for Wellington. The Waterloo was good for somebody. So
yeah, someone won that battle.
Yeah.
Right. If it fails in the Southeast twice, I mean that's bad on the league for sure.
Well, yeah. Orlando's not going to fail. We're pretty confident in that, right? That's not going to fail.
I'm pretty confident with that. Yeah, I think Orlando. Yeah. But Orlando is going to be, even if they sign Kaká, they're still going to. They're not going to be Miami. They're not going to be NYCFC.
Yeah.
Yep.
They're not going to be one of the glamour teams, and I guess I think. So I counted this today. I think this will put us up to 6 glamour teams out of the 22, and by glamour I mean attracts pretty players, can spend a lot of money, can't spend that much money because of the salary cap, but can spend as much as Garber lets them. So yeah, I think you're sort of right on, Josh. Is how does MLS deal with that, plus the fact of all these small market teams? Are we going to stop seeing SKC versus RSL in the MLS Cup final? I mean, I hope not. I think what I'd like to see happen, and I think we discussed this like a week ago or 2 weeks ago, is some sort of salary cap luxury tax thing where, yeah, you can buy stars, and that will help, but you can also be smart, like Memphis and San Antonio in the NBA, or like Kansas City and Salt Lake here, and still build a really good roster with a limited amount of money, or not a limited amount, but at least a similar amount. And the fact that there's only 3 DP spots now, I mean, 3 players can only do so much on a soccer field when there's 22. So
yeah.
Well, and I mean, how much of it is a marketing standpoint for the league? I mean, we all know that the year following the World Cup is a huge bump in right. American soccer interest, which is going to coincide nicely with 2 expansion teams, like you said, NYCFC and or 3, I guess, depending on what the expected date for Miami would be.
I'm thinking 2016. I don't think
I would think so.
It seemed kind of silly to put 3 in 2015, but you never know. I expect 2016, but we might be wrong tomorrow.
I mean, if we do 3, it's at least balanced conferences.
That expansion draft would.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, that's what I'm thinking of.
That would be brutal. Draft. Oh my God.
And that'd be especially tough for teams like Portland, who've got amazing depth and no real star players.
Right.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I guess that's the thing is that it hits it makes depth more important because you can't lose. You can't have a couple designated players and then a few like 2 or 3 people who are really propping them up and then nobody else in there. I mean, that's.
But if I understand the rules correctly on those expansions, assuming that they don't change. Teams that have 3 DPs and Generation Adidas players and homegrown players are going to be able to protect a significant amount more than a team that has a single DP and doesn't have any Generation Adidas and doesn't have,
Yeah, you can protect all your DPs, you can protect all your homegrowns, you can protect all your GAs.
Plus 11, right?
Plus 10 or 11 more, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, teams like Seattle that are running 3 DPs and, Generation Adidas, and they're running homegrown player DeAndre Yedlin. I mean, that's already a whole bunch of free protection plus 11 as opposed to, I don't know, San Jose.
Hmm.
And not to mention, Orlando, they'll probably, care a lot about the expansion draft just because, but you can't figure that New York City is going to rely on the expansion draft. I mean, they'll rely on them for their bench and depth, but that's not where they're getting the bulk of their talent, in their minds at least, I presume. So we'll see. So here's my fear, is that teams like New York City, teams like Miami, these other, glamour teams or whatever you want to call them, like New York and like the Red Bulls and the Galaxy and Seattle, and probably by the time Miami comes into the league, TFC will be among those. Of those teams that already exist, they don't really need to be good. Like, MLS doesn't need to help them be good for them to have a solid fan base or support or whatever. I don't think that's the case with New York City and Miami. They might need some help to be good in order to attract a fan base, at least at first. And that is a significant concern, I think.
And my initial gut reaction is that if you took the average American who is going to get into, the MLS based on the World Cup, and you put NYCFC side by side with Miami, I mean, in my mind, Miami is the more attractive national team because of the star power that, we see it as, well, of course, it's Man City that's, linked, but to a non-soccer fan, what does that mean? Or are they going to be paying attention to LeBron and Beckham? So it'll be interesting to see how that marketing goes in the league as far as glamour teams.
Well, what might be more important than Beckham and LeBron will be the players they can grab who would have been playing in the World Cup, or did play in the World Cup in 2014, and are now playing in MLS. I think that's a big, important thing that MLS needs to strive for, is to get players that, are going to be featured in the World Cup that's watched by the most Americans in history, and be able to watch those players on an every week basis in MLS.
Mm-hmm.
Fully agree.
Yeah, I also think that that's going to do a lot for people who are. That's going to do a lot for television attendance. It might do it. I mean, it might do something for their local attendance, but it's also. I'm really curious to see how those teams are going to attract people to fill the stadium, because watching a game in a half-full stadium is not a good advertisement for the league, and it's not a good advertisement for a team. And I think that. I'm curious to see what they do in terms of trying to get people into the stadium and to make an atmosphere. I mean, teams that can consistently do that, it's attractive to a viewer. It's attractive to a potential attendee. Players, the prestige of a team, I think players play a lot of lip service to it, and the atmosphere and the support and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, players go where there's money to be made. You didn't see all those Dortmund players sticking around for arguably the most impressive atmosphere in Europe. They went to Munich where they could get more money, and I think that same is going to be true for a lot of players. But in terms of getting people to show up and getting people to care and getting people to tune in on a regular basis and follow the team, a lot of it's going to come to. I mean, getting people to tune in, you want marquee names, but getting people to actually show up and care and be involved in a way that is, I feel odd saying this, but marketable, that's there. You've got to do something to get people to come in and care.
Year one is easy, right? Year one's always going to be the easiest to fill the seats. Everybody will be curious. Hey, there's this new team in town. Let's go check this out. But year 2, year 3, year 4, especially if your team's not doing so well, what happens? It's the long term that I'm more concerned about. Because I think during the first year, it's going to be very, very easy to fill the seats. Maybe not towards the end of the year, but I think at the beginning we'll see pretty full stadiums. Okay. And then we'll see what happens, with the results. If you look at, for example, with the Toronto FC, I don't think if they poured in a lot of money in this year, you'd be seeing many people at the stadium next year, you know? And that's where it comes down to is teams like NYC and teams like Miami might be able to support themselves that way. But I look at Orlando and I think, you know, okay, year one, good. Year two, year three, where are we at?
Well, Toronto is kind of weird because y'all sort of had a historic run of incompetence.
Well, then you can see where my opinion is formed from, right?
Yeah.
Right, but even then, I mean, just that little bit of hope. I mean, what are you expecting for? And I guess we can segue now into Toronto's preview a little bit. What are you expecting from a fan support level? I mean, it seems like it's going to be pretty well attended, maybe even sold out most of the year, right?
Yeah, I'm surprised. There's, I mean, I'm a supporter myself, and I look at the banner the banner paintings and everything, and there's a lot more activity than there was. I mean, a year ago, 6 months ago, 2 years ago. It's absolutely crazy. I had trouble last year bringing friends to the stadium. I went to like 3-4 matches last year. I went alone because nobody wanted to go with me. I wanted to go, so I went, and I sat there. But now people want to go. They're asking me, hey, when can we go to a match? You know, and it's all around the excitement of the players. Now, we'll see what the results will be like with Nelson. He's a bit of an inexperienced coach, but with all the money spent, people are expecting to get into the playoffs at the very least. And so we'll see. Does that happen? Does that not? I mean, I'd be kind of surprised if it didn't. But I mean, I've heard some fans, and I'm not including myself in this, that say TFC are going to win the MLS Cup. Well, we'll see. So, I mean, there's a broad spectrum of what's going on in terms of support in the city, but the number one thing is the support is back. I mean, the stadium's going to be filled. You'll see the first home game on March 22nd. I think there's going to be sold out for sure. And then, again, the test will come again, like I said. You know, 3-4 months down the line, we'll see what's happening with the results and everything, and with the support. But I think for the first few weeks, we'll be okay. And as long as the front office is smart enough to maintain that level of enthusiasm and can reciprocate that onto the field, then I think we'll be okay.
So when we talk Toronto here, obviously the big news is Defoe and Bradley and all those signings. How do you see those guys fitting into the 11?
Oh, it's crazy because it's like the revolving door at Toronto FC continues. I mean, constantly players in and out. It's been kind of hard to keep track of a starting 11 over the last 2 years, but finally we're seeing something solid, and we're seeing positions that, you know, this player is going to take this for sure, and this player is going to take that. And I mean, we even have restored the burnt bridges with D-Roll, right? I mean, that's absolutely crazy. I mean, it's the front office has shown that they've changed, right? And with all the different additions just coming in from December, you know, with Jackson and Gilberto, that was already, we're okay. This is great. This is already great progress. But then when you bring in Bradley and the Foe, well, it's hard to you know, kind of keep in the negative. You got to look at the positive. We got something going on this year, I think, and it's not going to be easy, and I don't want to say that because it won't be, but it's going to be fun, and it hasn't been fun for the last couple of years, and I'm looking forward to it being fun again because, I mean, that's what it's about, right? If you're not having a good time, why are you there? So that's what it is. Now, here's the thing, though, is Argos, we have a football team in our Canadian Football League up here in Canada, and they're talking about coming into the stadium. Before we had Defoe and Bradley, every supporter I talked to said, no Argos at BMO Field, not going to happen, ever. We're not going to let this happen. And now with these signings, you're seeing it's kind of hard for some of the supporters to say no. I still don't want them to come, but I mean, who knows what's going to happen? So it's interesting. It's a very interesting time to be a TFC fan, and it's going to be a very interesting year.
Would they be letting them use the field to offset the price and salary of?
Well,
they
haven't really come out and said that, but I mean, I think they want to host a couple more events there and generate some more revenue at BMO Field. They're talking about bringing the NHL Winter Classic when you know, in the winter when the stadium's not being used, and obviously CFL games would bring in more money. So they're talking about doing an expansion up to 30,000. There's no architecture drawings, nothing like that. It's very, very early on. But these are the beginning whispers of something that, you know, might happen. You might see $120 million poured into the stadium the next couple of years, and it'll be like a two season kind of construction. They're hinting at you, right? Well, like I'm saying is the supporters were really against it, and now that the front office has changed and shown that okay, we got the good head back on the shoulders when we're not total idiots anymore. And people are starting to open up and thinking, some supporters are saying, okay, I still say, I don't know, because it's still up in the air. Who knows? Until we get an actual solid concrete plan, then I think it's a better time to make a decision.
Yeah.
But some people, even just with these little whispers, they're ready to go to war over this, so.
So tell us more about Toronto.
Well,
what's going to happen to Laval? What's going to happen to Matthias Laval?
Oh, that's a very good question. The club says if they can keep him, they could find a way and, work out something with Garber. I don't know why.
I feel like if you have to say, maybe we can work out something with Garber, you're not going to work something out with Garber. If you're going to work something out with him, like, nobody would ever know that you ever had a problem.
Yeah.
It would have been like, oh, yes, Toronto has 3 DPs.
There's a new rule today.
Yeah, there would be a new rule announcement. It would be an
so.
extra special designated young impact player.
Yeah, so... I mean, it's hard to say. I want to keep him. He's shown a lot of great promise, but at this point, I'd be sad to see him go, but I'd still be confident in the team that we have. I wouldn't be so pissed as I would have been maybe 2-3 months ago,
You guys could loan him to Vancouver. They're kind of hurting.
Yeah, that would be good.
Vancouver
hasn't been making many moves this season, have they? Or off season, I mean, right? So.
Yeah.
Well, they made one, but it was sort of the
I think that was a move made on them. I don't know that was them making a move.
Well, okay. In Vancouver's defense, they did just get Betashore, who was an MLS All-Star defender who's good.
He's
good. He's very
He's gonna
solid.
play in the World Cup, so
But yeah, I want to hear more about the predictions of Toronto. Like,
They're
if you were a betting man.
If I was a betting man, I would bet that they get into the playoffs. I'd say you'd see a 4th or 5th spot, and where it goes from there, I think it would come down to injuries, and we'll see with Defoe's age, and some of the other players out there, some of the older guys, how they fare out through the entire season. It's a long season. There's a lot of travel. A lot of things can happen, right? You're playing on somewhat artificial turf. I don't know if we'll see Defoe or Bradley playing at Seattle, for example. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. But Toronto has a history of injury there, so they're kind of right. They don't want to bring too many good players out there and squander what they've just built. Yeah. So, like I said, it's a long season. It's very early. If I was a betting man, I'd make a conservative bet, and I would say they would make the playoffs. I hope they do better.
Okay.
I want them to do better, but I think at the very minimum, you're looking at a 4th or 5th playoff spot.
So I'm gonna be a little more optimistic, and I'm gonna go ahead and pencil in Toronto versus DC Eastern Conference Final. Okay with that.
The bottom 2 of the East now, at the top. I like that.
Wait, who's that? That's you being optimistic. You're not being optimistic for Toronto. You're being really optimistic for DC. That's more stretch for DC. Just pointing out the obvious.
I think DC versus Toronto in the play-in round is a good goal for you.
Yeah.
Isn't that what I said? No.
And I'd love to be more optimistic, but after so many years of, I'm still there. I'm still a season seat holder. I'm there. Like I said, I go to games alone. So, I mean, I love it. No. But at the same time, like, you can only get your ass kicked so much before you start to, be a little bit pessimistic. So that's why I'm kind of, I don't want to jinx it, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Is I don't want to say something and then, like, oh, shit, that didn't happen, did it?
All right, so our goal is going to be to get Dennis to make some wild prediction to jinx himself and make him feel bad.
Okay. And then last year my prediction was that Chivas would make the playoffs, so let's not be making crazy.
It really didn't happen.
No.
I predicted that too. I picked that too.
Yeah.
I stand by that.
That one day Chivas will make the playoffs.
This year too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the first 8 weeks of the season last year, it certainly looked like that was possible.
They looked good.
And then they fired Chelis, and then everyone was sad.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then we flew.
Dumpster fire. Yeah.
Then we flew a banner over their stadium.
That was fantastic.
It went worse.
FC Dallas time.
FC Dallas time.
FC
Let's
Dallas
do it.
time.
I've got my FC Dallas review that I put up here. So yeah, speaking of teams that started very, very brightly and finished not so good, just a quick 2013 recap for Dallas. I knew they were doing well, but I went back and looked at the numbers really quick. On May 25th, they were 8-3-2. They were top of the West. They were really, really good. From June to September, they were 1-7-5. And the second half of the season, they had 3 wins, 2 of which were against Chivas, which is not so good. So Dallas had a couple key changes. They got rid of David Ferreira, who was the 2010 MLS MVP, had not been playing particularly well. He was on $300-something-ish thousand. Getting rid of him freed up a lot of space for them to bring in someone new. They got rid of Kenny Cooper, who they traded for Adam Moffat with Seattle.
Okay, I have to ask, how is Kenny Cooper on a new team every year? I feel like he's not he's not that bad. I watched him play
But he's not that good. Here's the thing with Kenny Cooper. Kenny Cooper because I looked up all these numbers, Kenny Cooper took 28 shots on goal last year and scored 6 goals. Their highest goal scorer, Blas Perez, took 20 shots on goal and scored 11 goals. I mean,
okay.
Like and the other thing about Coop is that he is very, very, very streaky. He'll go on a run and he'll look great, and he'll at some point randomly go off of his run and then just start flopping around in the box and generally be a demoralizing spearhead with which to attack the goal. I mean, Dallas, they had a couple of things go wrong for them, but one of them was that their attack was a guy who had no confidence and was falling down all the time, and then another guy, David Ferreira, who was 34 and just could not be bothered to run or do any pressing, any movement. I mean, do anything other than occasionally look for a glamour pass. So, Kenny Cooper is not bad. He goes in streaks and plays very, very well, and he goes in streaks and plays abysmally. And I think it's something that a lot of teams have said, well, he's not bad, but for the money that you have to put out for a starting striker, he's not worth it, because he doesn't bring much to the game other than the ability. I mean, he's a big guy, but he's not a target man. He's more of a pure goal poacher. He's not great in the air either for a big guy. He's not particularly fast. He's got a lot going against him. He's a great goal poacher, as you saw with New York, but
Now, when you say that, I guess it makes sense when you say things like he scored 6 goals on 28 shots. My prevailing memory of Kenny Cooper is his penalty getting saved by Joe Willis in that playoff game. So I guess that makes sense.
Yeah.
I can't tell you the confidence you're inspiring me right now.
Oh man, I watched him play for Portland in 2011. He off the field, he is apparently the nicest guy. On the field, he is occasionally brilliant, largely ineffective, and doesn't bring a great deal to a team. This could be his year to turn it around. Again, I'm like, everybody I've talked to who's ever met him said that he is just like the sweetest, friendliest guy. So I wish him all the best. But anyway, sorry, back to Dallas.
Back to Dallas.
So David Ferreira, Jackson, Kenny Cooper. That was most of their attack. What they're left with is Fabian Castillo and Blas Perez. Blas Perez had a good year. Fabian Castillo, I think, this year is going to be his breakout year, and I would be surprised if he's not an MLS All-Star. Wow. Their other glimmer of hope is George John, who, for my money, is one of the best defenders in MLS. He's a very unsung guy, but he is solid, and his being injured through the summer coincided very neatly with Dallas's abysmal run. I think he's a really key part of their team. So the keys for Dallas this year are going to be stay healthy, don't let George John get injured, keep Fabian Castillo developing and looking good. Mauro Diaz also, they've got a young designated player named Mauro Diaz who is, I think, also very promising. They have the parts potentially to be a solid team, but they're very, very thin. They've gotten rid of a bunch of people and they haven't brought in much. I think they're going to rely on their younger players. Castillo, Diaz are both pretty young. George John is experienced, but he's nothing really flashy. Blas Perez, Panamanian striker, he's a good, serviceable, solid player, but they don't have much else, and they haven't brought in anybody. So I think Oscar Perea is going to have a very hard time. He did a good year, good job last year with Colorado with a young team. Actually, he did a great job with the injuries and the young team that he had. But I just don't see them getting all that far because they don't have enough depth.
Josh, is Michel still there?
No. Wait, is that true? I don't know.
Because the thing was, when Dallas was on that fantastic run in the beginning of the season...
He is still there. Yeah.
Yeah, that kid was playing great, and by the end of the season, when they were playing terribly, he was fighting for minutes. Now, as someone who didn't follow Dallas that close, I don't know what happened there, but it seemed like he was going to be a star for them halfway through the season, and then just wasn't.
Yeah. He... I kind of remember him being... I remember seeing him when Portland played him, and he looked. Yeah,
he was scoring set piece goals, and he had great service in the box, and then he just wasn't playing anymore.
Yeah, I did not watch enough Dallas to know exactly what went wrong with them last year. Other than I know that they had some key injuries, and that Ferreira, their captain, was just pointedly unmotivated. I remember watching him at Portland and thinking, wow, that guy just does not want to be out there, does he? He's just not at all, bothered by the game going on around him. Maybe Michel will be on. Maybe Javon Watson will have a less abysmal year. I think he's somebody who people like to hope will come good at some point, but it was not a Dallas player. Dallas fans like to really rip on him as being particularly ineffectual along the wing and never closing anybody down, never fighting for any fighting for a second ball. I thought last year Dallas were going to do a lot better than they did because they had what on paper looked like a really intimidating attack. They had Eric Hasley before. He also seemed to just completely fall out of form. Kenny Cooper, David Ferreira was, not. David Ferreira was still looking like somebody who might want to actually play a game. It just didn't seem to work out for him because of injuries and because of players just completely going off. Particularly in the midfield and defense, they looked really, really weak. And from everything that I can see, I don't see much evidence that they've done a lot to reinforce their real weak spots. I've gotten rid of some bad influence and a lot of dead weight salary cap wise in David Ferreira and changed up their attack with Kenny Cooper, but I don't see him finding the leadership that they need, and I don't see him having the depth to make it all the way through the season, especially when Blas Perez. Especially if something happens to Blas Perez, they really don't have anybody up front. So
now you talked about dead spots. I think you could argue they did do something about one of their dead spots at the head coaching position.
Yes, they did. Heinemann was, he didn't inspire much confidence in
there was a
in
lot
the Dallas
of talk
baseball.
Just how terrible of a human he was. It's probably mostly or whatever, but
yeah, I'm not. I shouldn't. I don't want to speculate on what the guy was like, but it was true that he fell out with a lot of players, and when he fell out with them, he would just sit people on the bench for long periods of time, not looking to trade them, not looking to. I mean, the same that happened with Breck Shea, who is admittedly a challenging case, but he seems to be doing fine now that he's over in England. But also tactically, Hinman was very, very inflexible. He made really weird substitutions. There was one game where I can't remember who they were playing, but I was watching. They were down 2-0, and he subbed an attacking midfielder for a defender. And you're just like, wait, what? Like, what are you trying to do? Like, why would you ever do that? I think Oscar Perea is going to be a much better coach. And given that they've got some very talented young players that he could potentially build a core around, we could see them come good. But I don't think that this year is going to be that year. They do have some midfield depth. In the West in particular. They do have some midfield depth. If they use their depth really smartly, if they're very lucky with no injuries, if none of their players get hit with beer cans thrown by their own fans, maybe this year they'll nip somebody to that fifth spot and get into the playoffs, but I really doubt it. I think this is more of a rebuilding year for them, and it's good that they got Oscar Perea in there because he is a very good coach, and I think we could see them come good next year, not this year.
All right. Okay. Programming note. I'm not sure about this. I think we started recording this at like 9. It's now 10 my time. I think it's 11 Dennis time and 8 o'clock y'all time. And then we've got that 15-minute interview we've got to plug in. So 2 options. One is if you guys are exhausted about talking soccer, we can wrap it up soon and somehow segue to the interview or whatever. Option 2 is we keep talking if you guys are still excited or whatever, and split the thing into 2 parts this week. That we could do like part 1, part 2, Tuesday, Thursday type deal. So what do y'all think?
Does anybody have more stuff to talk about?
I think we could probably cover Marco Papa in 3 minutes to 5 minutes and maybe close it out if we want to make it a single episode.
Okay. I did want to talk about Hinckley's AMA a little bit just because I feel like we are the RMLS podcast and it'd be cool to like talk about things that were cool that are RMLS, especially my one-day flare switch, which was a lot of fun. Flare bets should be a thing on RMLS. I don't understand why they're not.
I have suggested that like 3 different times and was met with a resounding set of downvotes.
Oh, I'm so surprised.
Because I frequent our hockey and I think that flare bets are fun. It's it's harmful to no one and it's a good bit of rivalry because when Cascadia Cup matches roll around, I promise there's nothing that I want less than having the Timbers flare for a week.
Yeah.
But it's that much more fun,
It was really cool to see like the Rapids logo next to my name just for that day. Because first of all, it felt like I was a winner.
Like, hey, this is what the playoffs are like?
Yeah, something like that. And just because, it gets boring after a while just to see, DC United crest next to my name, whatever. It's there all the time.
Hey, I don't know if you know this, but you can just change that literally any time.
You can go Railhawks? Railhawks
just go, just Railhawks it,
I Railhawks it for a good part of the last season while we were still alive in the U.S. Open Cup, so...
Well, I mean, I'm down either way, honestly.
You know what? That was a pretty good conversation that I, as a listener, even want to listen to. Like, that was...
I was thinking that exact same thing.
I was like, please nobody say anything about production so you could just continue this conversation. Because that was awesome. That was like good banter and shit. Sorry, boy, I keep the swearing. I have this bad problem.
It's okay.
I've never actually asked how we feel about that.
I've sworn many times on the.
Okay, so let's
but
it's been a while.
Damn it, guys, quit swearing.
I feel like this fucking subreddit. I feel like this is all a group mostly of adults, and that the general American culture that goes with the sport tends to be one of adult beverages and adult language, and I don't have a problem with it.
I'm down with it.
Now with the Aaron Flynn interview later, he's not into swearing because he is a priest or minister or something, and so, but that's I don't know what to say about that. But the point is, he's really cool and he doesn't swear, so I don't know.
Are you trying to break our our prejudice that only cool people can swear? You don't swear, you're not cool. No, there's this one guy I know. He doesn't swear, but he's cool. Don't worry, guys. Okay, well, sorry. So to get back to what we were talking about, I say we let's do like really quick 3 minutes of talking about. Actually, you know what? We just talked about flare switching for a second. Let's talk about Tim Hinckley for just a minute, and then we can talk about Marco Papa another time. At some point, Pete's got to do a Sounders preview anyway. So
exactly, I've got plenty to say there. So
yeah, Tim Hinckley's cool. It was a really entertaining AMA. I was not expecting that. Most executives, they come on, they do AMAs, and it's boring. Or you know whose AMA was boring? Taylor Twellman's AMA was boring.
Oh,
no way, really?
He says bizarre, interesting things on TV. Whatever. But he answered all the questions. He even answered the one about weed, which was awesome.
Yeah.
And it's why I switched my flare in the first place. I was like, man,
wow.
if he answers this, well, because I responded, I was like, if he even answers this, I'll be a Rapids fan for like a day. And then he did. And then Rapids fans were like, change the flare, change the flare. I'm like, fine, I'm a man of my word. I'll do it.
If I recall, he even commented directly to you and said, "Let's see you in Burgundy."
He did. I don't remember Burgundy. I was hoping to capitalize on that, and I was hoping they'd send me a scarf, but that didn't. So.
No, I fully agree. I feel like we get so many AMAs that are through the filter of some PR rep who said, "Hey, Reddit's a great social media platform. Let's get you on there, and they'll ask you some questions, and we can talk about Rampart."
Yeah.
And it's just. Yeah.
Well, our latest market research shows that our target demographic is so and so, and therefore we should. And then they just come and do an AMA. Right?
I mean, to MLS's credit, I think that they have been pretty on top of the Reddit thing. We've got the digital media guys. We've got Matt Doyle. We've got quite a few in the know, tech savvy guys that are kind of aware. And I don't feel, and you can disagree with me, but I don't feel like we're being talked down to for the most part. I feel like we're being engaged on a good level.
Well, and that's demographic. Where a lot of MLS fans are young, tech savvy people, a lot of whom are likely to be on Reddit, and so it just makes sense. I don't think there's a more perfect representation of any other sports fans subreddits than RMLS, if that makes any sense. I don't think it does, but whatever.
Well, as far as the Hinckley thing goes, I personally, since we just talked about this on the last podcast, and I went on that field report out to Colorado Springs so that I could be there for the announcement.
Right.
I thought it was really interesting how clear of a line he drew that they would have nothing to do with the switchbacks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was pretty adamant. He was like, "We have nothing to do with that club," and I'm like, "That's odd." Like,
and I think they even made a press statement about it, a very brief press statement that the official line is that they will have nothing to do with the club.
Do you think that's because they had some plan of their own in the works that, wasn't far enough along for them to announce?
It has to be. It has to be something that was...
It seemed like they were really like, no, I don't know those guys. I mean, it was really very, very pointed. So. Well,
and we've seen what happened with Sac Republic, so do we want to end up having Colorado Rapids with two different, affiliations rather than one lower level that has two different MLS teams? Like, are they going to, I think that it's probably exactly what you said. It has to be something in the background that we don't know about, and maybe it's going to be another team. Maybe they're going to do their own thing like the Galaxy. Not sure.
Well, I've got this feeling now with the Sacramento thing. Now that LA's done what they're gonna do, that Portland's like, oh wait, we can do that. Oh well, let's just go ahead and do that, and that'll happen. Maybe y'all will be affiliated with Sacramento for like a year, and then y'all will make Portland too, and then everyone will be happy, and then whatever.
That seems likely. Yeah, thanks to the LA Samsung Galaxy 2. I can't take credit for that. Somebody on Reddit's cleverer than I am, but I thought it was hilarious.
That is hilarious.
Should bring that guy on. Just I don't know.
Tell us your joke again.
God, I've been replaced already.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, lower league talk. I believe, Ian, that we had somebody.
Oh yeah, segue time. All right. So yeah, we talked to, or are going to talk to, in terms of later in the podcast, but it happened last week.
Smooth, so smooth. Love it.
Aaron Flynn, otherwise known as Timber Flynn, on Reddit, on RMLS and RNASL Soccer. He's been doing his own redesigns of NASL teams. He's also a mod of RNASL Soccer. He's big into the lower leagues, also big into the Timbers. He's got like 1,000 Portland Timbers scarves, every single one ever made in existence, even when they were in the 70s. Anyway, his Twitter handle is at Timberflynn, or no, it's not. It's at Aaron Flynn. And this is the interview that I did with him.
Sweet.
And we're back. Thanks, Aaron. You are awesome. Hope everything goes well with things. All right, so we've been talking for many minutes, and I think we're almost done. How do you guys feel about the universe?
You're gonna want to redo that.
I know I am.
You're gonna want to. Let's try that again.
All right, let's start over.
All right.
I knew it. I was thinking that too.
All right, and that. Nope. Damn it. Okay.
And lead in first.
This is why Chris is so much better.
Yeah, Chris is really good at this kind of stuff.
How is he? He's just like so natural at it. He's so good.
You know what it is? He's a theater major.
Well, thanks for telling me now.
He's like stand-up comedy is one of the things that he does on the side too. So
yeah.
Oh man, so he's the perfect host. Was what you're telling me.
He really
we really
is.
lucked out. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, today it's Ian. So Ian, here we go. One take.
Yeah,
Ready?
come on, do it, man.
All right, we're back. Thanks, Aaron, for that. Oh, God damn
it. Don't worry, just relax. You got this, man. It's all you. You're okay.
I kind of want to put some of that, like, the last couple minutes, because I want Chris to hear that we're talking about him. Anyway. All right.
Breaking news. We got it.
Yeah. All right, come on. I want to go home. I'm still at work.
Oh, that's right. All right. Thank you. Username Timberflynn, Aaron Flynn, at Aaron Flynn. Follow him if you'd like. Pretty good interview from my end, anyway. So we're almost done. Anything else you guys want to talk about?
I think we're ready for predictions, huh?
Yeah.
That's
right.
My
God! Yeah, we need a crazy prediction.
Oh crap!
On the fly.
Yeah.
I thought of one. Since I'm the guest host today, I don't have to go first, so I'm gonna make Dennis go first.
Since you've just informed me about these predictions in the last 15 seconds, I will say Vancouver will win their first match against New England.
Wow. We're gonna have to wait a long time for that.
That's the only thing I had in front of me that I could kind of make a prediction off of. Because
all right.
I'm sticking with it though. 2-0.
All right. I'm gonna go, and it's gonna be that. Oh man, I don't know. Merritt Paulson is gonna say something. He's gonna say something insane that he regrets and deletes this week.
I don't know how. That doesn't sound very bold there, Josh.
Look, man, I'm trying to.
Oh,
Look, I'm trying. Okay. At least my thing is gonna happen this week. Dennis's thing.
okay, I got one for this week. I just thought of one. We're gonna see a
Okay.
picture of an MLS player at the Olympics, at the opening ceremony. Let's narrow it down.
Brave.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right, Pete.
Boy, so we need them imminent. Huh? I had a nice long season prediction. I don't think I'll bust that out yet. Let's see. I will predict that. I'll predict that we don't get a real announcement on Wednesday about Miami.
Ooh.
That we get a partial announcement that either negotiations have been extended or that maybe we found some land but we're not quite ready to talk about it. But I'll say that we don't get the official announcement on Wednesday.
I like that.
That's
That is
cool.
really bold because they're calling it a major announcement, and Don Garber's going to be there. And all right. Well, I guess it's my turn. I predict that. Something about
Ooh.
Eddie Johnson doing something. I don't know, guys.
Yeah. Wow. You really. Just
I don't have anything.
If you want to jump into
I
bold,
forgot that-
beginning of the season stuff, I'm ready. Let's talk that.
Oh, you guys didn't even. I just make something up. I had no idea.
Oh,
no
you know what?
time.
Yeah,
Whatever.
I'll make up that we're gonna beat Toronto in 2 days. DC United is. We're playing at DC United, by the way.
That's a bold prediction. Okay.
And we're gonna win it, and I'm gonna go nanner on the podcast next week as a result. And there's my
Watch
prediction,
me
guys.
cry. You'll
I'm
see
going to
me cry.
predict that I don't get caught by my boss watching the 11 a.m. Pacific Wednesday Sounders pregame. That I successfully watched that whole game without being found out.
My bold prediction is that a couple of MLS fans are going to get fired this week from their jobs for watching streams on the internet.
So on that positive note, that will be it for this week. /MLS, February 3rd, the week of. Everybody have a good day. We'll see you next week, and hopefully Chris will be here to host and do a lot better job than I just did.
Oh, so,
You're good.
so self-deprecating. All right. Well, bye everybody.
All right.
Have a good one.
All right, that's that.
Do we have business to discuss for the next